Why do women constantly test men, even when they claim to want peace and stability? The truth is, these tests aren't random. They're deeply rooted in psychology, biology, and instinct. From subtle remarks to silent treatment, women often push boundaries not because they dislike you, but because they're wired to evaluate strength, consistency, and authenticity. To them, a test isn't just a game. It's a way of asking, are you really the man you appear to be? In this video, we're going to break down the hidden psychology behind why women test men, the strategies they use, and how Sigma males respond differently. By the end, you'll understand why failing these tests cost respect, attraction, and even relationships, and why passing them silently builds an unshakable dynamic. If you've ever wondered why women push your buttons, challenge your words, or test your patience, this video will give you the answers you've been looking for. Watch until the end, because the final point explains the ultimate test women give men without ever saying a word. And if you're ready to master female psychology through the Sigma perspective, hit that subscribe button now, and let's dive in. The attention test. One of the most common psychological tests women use is what I call the attention test. On the surface, it may seem harmless. Ignoring a text for a while, acting a little distant, or pulling back emotionally just to see how you react. But underneath, it's a deep probe into your stability as a man. Women want to know if your self-worth depends on their constant attention, or if you can remain composed and grounded regardless of how they act. Most men fail this test without even realizing it. When the affection slows down or when silence stretches a bit longer than usual, they panic. They double text, over-explain, shower her with compliments, or demand answers. What they don't realize is that this reaction gives away something critical. It shows that their emotional balance relies on her validation. And once that happens, the dynamic shifts. She has the power, and he's unconsciously playing her game. Sigma males handle this test differently, and this is why women find them so difficult to manage. When the attention fades, a Sigma doesn't chase or crumble. He stays calm, patient, and steady, sending the clear message that his value isn't tied to how much or how little affection he receives. This non-reaction is powerful because it breaks the very purpose of the test. Instead of proving dependency, he proves independence. Ironically, the less he reacts, the more curiosity and respect he generates. Women start questioning, why isn't he affected? Why doesn't he need me to reassure him? Why does his silence make me think about him more? That's the hidden power of the Sigma response. Not chasing forces the other person to lean in harder. The harsh truth is this: the attention test isn't about love. It's about control. Most men give away their power instantly, but Sigma males turn it on its head. By standing firm, they show that their validation comes from within, not from anyone else. The jealousy trap. Another psychological game women often use is the jealousy trap. It usually shows up in subtle ways, casually mentioning another man's name, talking about who gave them attention, or even posting suggestive things on social media just to see how you'll react. The purpose is simple: to test whether your sense of worth depends on competition and whether you'll fight for her validation. Most men fall straight into the trap. They react with irritation, confrontation, or attempts to prove themselves better than the imaginary rival. This reaction may feel like passion, but in reality, it exposes insecurity. It signals that she has leverage over your emotions, and once that happens, she knows she controls the dynamic. The jealousy trap isn't about the other man at all. It's about finding out if you will hand over your power when faced with a perceived threat. Sigma males dismantle this trap effortlessly, not by outcompeting others, but by refusing to play. A Sigma doesn't see himself in competition because he doesn't need to. If she tries to spark jealousy, he simply observes, stays calm, and continues with his life as if nothing happened. The This lack of reaction isn't weakness, it's dominance. It says, I know my value. If you need games to feel secure, you're not my priority. This is where the Sigma mindset shocks women the most. Instead of getting more attention by stirring jealousy, they end up feeling ignored and unsettled. The Sigma's detachment flips the script. She begins questioning whether she is the one being tested, whether she is replaceable, whether she has any real influence over him at all. The jealousy trap fails against Sigma males because they've mastered self-sigmanation. They don't measure their worth through competition, applause, or possession. They understand that true attraction isn't built on chasing or insecurity, but on confidence and self-respect. By refusing to play, they win, without even lifting a finger. Hot and cold behavior. One of the most confusing tactics women use is hot and cold behavior. One day she's fully engaged, texting often, laughing at your jokes, making you feel like the center of her world. The next day, she goes distant, vague, and emotionally unavailable, leaving you wondering what changed. This push-pull dynamic is not accidental. It's a deliberate test, designed to measure how much power she holds over your emotions and your sense of stability. For most men, the cold phase triggers panic. They chase harder, ask what's wrong, try to overcompensate with affection or attention, and essentially prove that her withdrawal works as a tool of control. The moment a man reacts desperately to this inconsistency, he validates the strategy. She learns that by giving warmth and then taking it away, she can manipulate his behavior whenever she wants. Sigma males, however, react differently. Instead of panicking, they detach and observe. A Sigma doesn't allow someone else's mood swings to dictate his self-worth or his actions. When the hot energy fades, he doesn't scramble to fix it. He simply notices the shift and remains steady. This lack of reaction confuses women who are used to emotional compliance. The cold phase loses its impact because the Sigma refuses to chase, refuses to beg, and refuses to give away control. This response flips the script. Instead of him questioning his value, she begins questioning hers. Instead of him chasing the lost warmth, she wonders why her withdrawal didn't get the usual reaction. The Sigma's detachment forces her to confront her own motives, and often it exposes whether her interest was genuine or just a game. Hot and cold behavior is designed to create emotional dependency, but with Sigmas, it backfires. Their calm observation and refusal to engage turn the test into a revelation. Women quickly realize that the Sigma isn't unsettled by inconsistency. He's evaluating whether she is worth his time. Silence, treatment via Sigma silence. There's a critical difference between the silent treatment most people use and the strategic silence of a Sigma male. The silent treatment is emotional punishment. It's manipulative, designed to make the other person feel anxious, guilty, or desperate for attention. It comes from insecurity and the need to control. Women often use this as a test. They withdraw affection and wait to see how quickly a man bends to restore the connection. But Sigma silence works on a completely different level. When a Sigma male goes quiet, it's not about punishing or seeking control. It's about clarity, boundaries, and self-preservation. He doesn't withhold words because he wants to make you chase. He withholds words because he refuses to waste them. His silence is intentional. It says, I see what's happening, I won't engage in games, and I choose peace over drama. This difference unnerves women who are used to their silent treatment being met with panic. With most men, the silence creates chaos. With a Sigma, it creates calm power. Instead of frantically trying to win back approval, he stays grounded. And that reversal of energy flips the dynamic completely. Suddenly, the woman realizes her usual tactics don't work, and the weight of the silence falls back on her. Sigma silence. exposes manipulation without confrontation. It forces people to sit with their own actions and their own discomfort. And while the silent treatment drains relationships with toxicity, Sigma silence redefines them with strength. It's not a weapon of cruelty, it's a shield of discipline. That's why Sigma silence shocks people so deeply. It's not cold revenge, it's self-respect expressed without a single word. And often, the realization that his silence is final is more powerful than anything he could ever say. The control game. Control is the foundation of most mind games, and it's exactly where Sigma males break the cycle. Many women test men through subtle manipulation, pulling back affection to see if he chases, using jealousy to provoke a reaction, or setting emotional traps to measure his devotion. For most men, these tactics work because they fear rejection. They crave approval and validation so badly that they'll bend, compromise, or even beg just to regain balance. But here's where the Sigma male flips the script. He doesn't operate from neediness, so control games lose their power. When someone tries to pull the strings, he doesn't resist aggressively, and he doesn't cave in either. He simply detaches. That detachment is what makes him untouchable. Instead of entering the cycle of push and pull, the Sigma calmly steps out of the game, leaving the manipulator holding strings that no longer connect to anything. This unnerves women who rely on control dynamics. They're used to men reacting instantly to silence, mood swings, or emotional pressure. But with a Sigma, none of it works. His independence is so deeply ingrained that emotional blackmail and manipulation collapse in on themselves. He doesn't fight for approval, he doesn't explain himself endlessly, and he doesn't try to win back affection through compromise. The Sigma mindset reframes relationships completely. Loyalty is given freely, but never forced. Respect is mutual, or it doesn't exist. And the moment a control game shows up, he sees it for what it is and quietly withdraws his energy. That withdrawal is devastating for the manipulator because it highlights the truth they never had control to begin with. In the end, the control game fails because Sigmas don't play. They know that real strength comes from walking away, not from proving themselves. And when the game is over, the silence they leave behind teaches the harshest lesson of all. You can't control someone who has mastered himself. Validation. Withdrawal. One of the most common tactics women use in relationships is validation withdrawal. It's the subtle, or sometimes not so subtle, pulling back of praise, affection, or recognition to see how a man responds. For most men, this creates panic. They start questioning themselves, chasing harder, and bending over backwards to earn back the approval they feel slipping away. That's exactly why the tactic works. It feeds on insecurity. But Sigma males operate differently. Validation is not their currency. They don't define their worth by someone else's compliments or affection. So when validation is withdrawn, it doesn't destabilize them. Instead, it exposes the dynamic for what it really is, an attempt to control. Rather than begging for affirmation, Sigmas remain centered. They continue on their path, focused on their goals, unaffected by whether someone is clapping for them or not. This response shocks people who rely on validation games. They expect withdrawal to create desperation, but with Sigmas, it creates indifference. The Sigma mindset is simple. If validation is given freely, it's welcomed. If it's withheld, it changes nothing. Their sense of self is built on discipline, solitude, and inner standards, not external applause. Over time, this frustrates those who use validation as leverage. They realize they can't manipulate a Sigma through silence, coldness, or withholding affection. The more they try, the more the Sigma quietly withdraws his own energy. And once he reaches that point, there's no going back. The game collapses completely. In fact, this refusal to react often flips the script. The person trying to control ends up questioning their own worth, wondering why their tactics failed. Instead of the Sigma chasing, they become the ones seeking validation. And that's the brutal truth. In the world of validation games, the Sigma never loses, because he never plays. The drama bait. One of the most common ways people test men, especially women in relationships, is through drama bait. It can take many forms: picking unnecessary arguments, creating tension out of small issues, or even stirring jealousy to see how a man reacts. The goal isn't always conscious malice. Sometimes it's a way of seeking reassurance or control. But for most men, drama works exactly as intended. They get triggered, defensive, or desperate to fix a situation, and that reaction gives away their emotional control. Sigma males, however, don't take the bait. They've trained themselves to recognize emotional manipulation disguised as conflict. Instead of getting pulled into heated arguments, they remain calm, detached, and almost unreadable. This composure doesn't just frustrate those looking for drama, it dismantles the entire tactic. Where others would shout back, explain endlessly, or bend under guilt, the Sigma responds with silence or a steady, logical reply. That unshakable calm does more damage than anger ever could. Why? Because drama thrives on energy. If someone tries to provoke chaos but the Sigma refuses to feed it, the storm collapses. The manipulator is left talking to themselves, while the Sigma's silence forces them to confront their own behavior. This reversal of power is unsettling. The one who created the drama ends up looking irrational, while the Sigma remains untouchable. The real secret is that Sigmas see drama as wasted energy. Every second spent on chaos is a second not spent on growth, goals, or peace of mind. That's why they opt out entirely. And when others realize they can't drag a Sigma into endless battles, they lose one of their strongest tools of control. This is why drama bait never works on a Sigma male. Instead of being provoked, they turn the entire situation into a quiet lesson. Control yourself, or you'll lose access to their presence altogether. Walking away without warning. For most people, leaving a relationship, friendship, or even a toxic situation comes with long talks, arguments, and attempts at closure. But Sigma males don't operate by those rules. When they decide someone has crossed the line or wasted their energy for too long, they don't announce it, negotiate, or give endless second chances. They simply walk away, silently, decisively, and without looking back. This sudden withdrawal is shocking to others because there are no warnings, no final arguments, and no drawn-out explanations. One day, the Sigma is there, present and engaged. The next, they're gone. For those left behind, it feels like a door slammed shut without a sound. The absence stings more than words ever could because it forces the other person to face their own actions in solitude without the distraction of conflict. What makes this so powerful is that Sigmas don't walk away impulsively. Their decision is the result of deep observation, quiet analysis, and a final judgment that the connection no longer serves their peace or growth. By the time they leave, they've already emotionally detached, meaning nothing you say can pull them back. This is what makes their departure permanent and why it hits so hard. To others, this can feel cold or cruel, but for the Sigma male, it's an act of self-preservation. They know that staying in draining situations only weakens them, and rather than compromise their standards, they choose the clean break. No fights, no drama, just silence. And that silence leaves the loudest echo in the minds of those who underestimated him. In the end, walking away without warning is more than an action. It's a statement. It declares, "My peace matters more than your approval." And for those who tested their boundaries, the regret always comes too late. At the end of the day, every one of these tests, from the attention traps to the jealousy games to the silent treatment, has one purpose: to see if you'll break, chase, or compromise your strength. But here's the brutal truth. Sigma males never need to prove themselves in these games. Their silence, their detachment, and their refusal to beg for validation make them unshakable. And that's exactly why women fear them, respect them, and regret ever testing them in the first place. Most men fail these tests because they're desperate for approval. Sigmas win because they don't play at all. That's the mindset that separates them from the crowd, and it's the reason their presence leaves such a lasting impact. So if you recognize yourself in these traits, know this: you don't need to explain yourself, you don't need to argue, and you don't need to prove your worth through validation. Your power is in silence, patience, and the ability to walk away when the games go too far. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these tests do you think is the hardest to resist? The jealousy trap, the drama bait, or the silent treatment? Drop your answer in the comments, and let's see how many of you are living by the Sigma mindset already. And if this video gave you clarity on the hidden psychology behind these games, don't just leave. Subscribe to Ultrawise right now. Because here, we decode the unspoken rules of power, silence, and strategy that no one else dares to talk about.